Imagine if I were working in this organization, I'd be overwhelmed by something literally being global.
Yeah.
How does this organization handle the global aspect?
Well, we take it one step at a time, Brendan. We feel like one pilot project at a time, and we have had several leads, and they are kind of all flooding in at once. And we have to use discretion and diligence to flesh out each connection. We do not support individuals, so we have had to say no to individuals because, you know, that is important in the accounting process and transparency. So we do look to establish partnerships with other organizations overseas, and are working on that right now. And that will assist us on the ground, because really, reinventing the wheel is not going to get the job done. Our organization feels that we are one of many hands and one of many vessels, I would say, and if we can have someone else pour into us the knowledge or the cultural understanding necessary for the job, we look to that. And on the ground especially, we do want to utilize national resources and native employees, and find that if there's something going on, how can we plug into that to support and augment what's existing. So Home of Love already existed long before we came along, and they had few resources. The founder at Home of Love, a wonderful man named John Nathan, was a pharmacist. He gave up his job, he gave up his livelihood, and put all of his savings into property, raised his family on the site along with the orphans, and really was an example of service in his everyday walk. And when we came along and saw that, we said, how can we help? You know, we have so little, but if we can find small ways to start helping, such as the community garden. Also at Home of Love, we're working with some Stevens students on an IT project in computer literacy. So small things, and beginning small as an organization, beginning small in other countries, and then expanding as the resources become available and the volunteers come to the table.
And so, as we were talking about, like with the microloans, these are really, even though it's working with organizations, it's people making decisions about their own lives. With the microloans, it's women primarily, I believe, investing or being invested in work that they're doing. And although it's a huge impact in their life, it seems like in the grand scheme, it's just a drop in the ocean. But this organization seems to be working on the idea that something that happens in one part of the world that's powerful resonates.
It does. It really does. And we actually are speaking with a woman right now who's Ugandan, living in India. And our hope is to connect Indian service base to Ugandan service base and make it something that doesn't just exist from the Western world to the developing world. It really should be a global effort. And so we do welcome emails from all over the world, and we have a translation mechanism on our website to encourage that. We do believe that when one person sows into another person, that person will move on and sow into many others and transform their own communities. And really, we don't need to tell them how to. They already know. It's a matter of whether or not we are too selfish to do it, or too detached, or perhaps unaware. So Vessels really exists to raise awareness, provide support, and to augment the creative vision existing on the ground.
Now, any international organization is going to have to deal with political strife. And that at any given time, that's going to be happening. And given the time, it'll be a different flavor, a different issue that rises up. Yet the work needs to still happen.
Even more so during conflict and disaster. You know, I had a very limited experience with conflict as a child, because I was in the Middle East, and I visited often to the Palestinian territories, and I did see great injustices, and that sparked something in me at a young age that, you know, it didn't create an anger, but it created the need to really say, this is not right, and be an advocate. And I recall as a child being in Bethlehem one time when gunshots were going off all around us, and of course the gunshots were being directed to 12 and 13-year-olds. I saw with my own eyes, so that was extremely moving. My father was shot at, and I just recall going up to the hotel room by myself, and at the time George Bush was the president, and I sat down and wrote a letter to him about what was going on. And so I can remember thinking at that age, why doesn't someone do something? So during the time of conflict, not necessarily getting involved in any sort of political way, because we are a nonpartisan organization. That is clear. But we do believe that there are ways to get involved to support both sides in prevention of poverty and loss and devastation. And so that's an important component of what we hope to do.
Well, the conflict will end, but the poverty and the devastation,
yes,
especially when an infrastructure is
destroyed,
destroyed, the effort to bring that back is insurmountable.
It is. And Brendan, sometimes even bringing back the national infrastructures, that's an important step in the healing process. But bringing hope to people who have lost their hope. And when you look in their eyes, there is nothing there now. I've seen children 5 and 6 years old with a blank stare, and the reason is because of conflict and trauma that they've endured. And bringing the hope back and the twinkle into a child's eye, and saying you can do this, and you are worth it, and there is dignity within you. We have an art-based department called Creative Vessels, and the vision of the department is to eventually offer art enrichment as a precursor to trauma counseling. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, one of our sister organizations here in Columbia is well known for their trauma counseling, as a veteran of trauma counseling in Rwanda. And that was a great part of our vision, because we realized that although the trauma counseling continues in many areas, children really won't open up, especially unless they're not really knowing what's going on necessarily, and the door is opened through art. And so as an artist myself, I recognize that that is a healing medium. And no matter if it's music therapy or ceramics, perhaps drama, which in Africa, popular theater is utilized for conflict resolution, for social issues such as hygiene and women's health. That's the way they can bring this to the table in the community. But also in things such as painting and dance, sort of the release of some of the issues that are underlying and never addressed and really shut down. And then, of course, the follow-up care will be important after those doors come open and the floodgates
So
fly
we've
open.
actually come to the end of the program, but I think it's so wonderful that we can, acknowledging the worth of humanity.
Absolutely.
There are so many organizations that are out to intervene in disasters, but to think we so rarely think we should acknowledge the worth of humanity and say it.
Yes.
And it sounds like this organization that's the message of this organization.
That's a perfect way to put it, Brendan, that each vessel is worthy of honor, regardless of religious creed or ethnicity or nationality. Absolutely looking at the vessel as a lovely and dignified human being worthy of our respect. So, yes.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Renee.
you. It's wonderful to
This
have
has
met
been
you. I
wonderfully-
appreciate it.
Oh, thank you
It's
so
been
much.
an honor.
And thank you so much for watching this episode of Scientific Station. For more information about Vessels International, visit the World Wide Web, vesselsinternational.com, and acknowledge your worth. Thank you so much.
You did such a good job.